Hunter explain the resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. This is a Senate concurrent resolution adopted by the Senate yesterday in accordance with the Senate's planned work schedule for this week and next week. The resolution authorizes the Senate or the House to adjourn from this Thursday until next Tuesday. It's my understanding that the Senate and House will both be in session tomorrow. I move adoption.
Mr. Harrison, in opposition to the resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, with all due respect, is this a joke? Are we seriously going to take up a resolution? We've been here 4 weeks, and if we pass this today, this will be the fourth long holiday vacation weekend we have taken. And this is, by the way, especially embarrassing given that President Trump and his administration are working 20 hours a day. And in fact, they have done more in 3 weeks to combat taxpayer-funded DEI in Texas than this body has done in the 3 years that I have been here. Texans are counting on us, Texans who are being taxed out of their homes, Texans who are having their tax dollars weaponized against them, against their children, and against their values by funding DEI. And almost all of our public universities expect us to take action to protect them. And by the way, to all of you saying we can't work because we have a constitutional 60-day prohibition on work, you know what else the Constitution does not let us do explicitly? Take 3-day weekends. I wish folks paid more attention to that prohibition, the prohibition that we're going to suspend right now. So don't vote against this. I encourage you to vote against this, but don't vote against it just because I'm asking you to. I talk to Texans all across this state, and I can assure you, especially if you're one of my colleagues on my side of the aisle, every one of your constituents wants us to vote no on this resolution. Thank you.
Mr. Speaker, will the member yield for questions?
Absolutely.
Despite being adjourned, are you able to work on bills and legislation if we don't meet formally?
Given that I have filed, I think, 60 of the most consequential pro-liberty bills ever filed in this Texas chamber, absolutely.
So thank you for that answer. So you are able to work.
Individual members can work. Individual members, however, cannot pass bills. They cannot pass legislation. And quite frankly, we should have passed legislation off this floor weeks ago. Weeks ago. So
the process is, and tell me if I'm wrong, we form committees. The bills pass through committees. It's a filter process. And then if the bill goes through calendars at that point, we're able to vote on the bills then. Is that correct?
Are you actually asking me the process for how a bill becomes a law, Representative?
Yes, sir.
Okay, yes, it gets referred to committees as per the Constitution. And the Constitution explicitly authorized the formation of committees after a speaker who was elected. And that speaker, ladies and gentlemen, was elected 30 days ago. And the Constitution authorizes us to send a bill, once filed, not to a committee of specific jurisdiction, but to a committee of the whole. Bills could have been put to this body as a committee of the whole weeks ago, deliberated, vote out of the committee of a whole, and placed on the floor for full consideration of the body weeks ago, and we could have passed school choice exactly like the Texas Senate has already done.
If I may, will the member continue to yield for questions?
I will yield as long as you would like to be here.
So the resolution addresses a Senate resolution asking us to concur.
Yeah, it does.
Is there a reason, is there an issue that you have with the Senate that we should not concur with the resolution from the Senate?
What a profoundly unserious question. The Texas Senate has had multiple committees formed for many weeks. The Texas Senate has referred literally hundreds of pages of consequential legislation to those committees. There have been countless hours of hearings conducted in those committees, including some that went for 2 solid days. The Texas Senate has referred bills or passed bills out of committee to the Senate for deliberation, an entire day of deliberation on one of them on the floor of the Texas Senate, and the Texas Senate has moved to final passage, one of the most consequential pieces of legislation that is pro-parent in the history of the state. So the Texas Senate is working. The Texas House has accomplished nothing, respectfully, but honoring Beyonce and passing the Democrat Empowerment Act of 2025.
Are any of the bills that you're referring to an emergency item? Will the moon fall out of the sky if any of these bills are not passed within a week or two?
You know what? You really should direct that question to the governor of the state of Texas, who designated 7 of these items to be emergency items, including probably the most pressing issue facing mine and your constituents, which is confiscatory levels of property taxation that preclude home ownership in the state of Texas. And in fact, Governor Abbott specifically asked us to take up a bill that I've been championing for 2 years that would make property tax increases illegal unless they were approved by voters in an election. Would you join me in making a motion to put that bill on the floor so we can pass it off the floor before we take another 5-day vacation? Will you join me, Representative Tepper, in making that motion?
I will join you when it's the proper time, but
You can make it the proper time by making that motion right now.
I don't believe these microphones are intended for
You
grandstanding or self-serving speeches.
What are you
So,
doing? What are
thank
you doing back there, Representative?
Thank you, member.
I am speaking on behalf of Texans who are being taxed out of their homes and who expect us to pay more attention to their wishes than the people that work under the pink dome in the corrupt capital of the state of Texas.
Thank you for yielding.
That's
I
who
appreciate
I'm fighting for, Representative, and thank you for that. You don't have any more? You don't have any more questions?
I'm done. Thank you, sir.
All right. I'm disappointed.
Representative Harrison, will you yield for a question?
Absolutely, Representative Hopper.
Is there precedent for the House taking up matters before the first 60 days?
Not only is there precedent in the journals of sessions gone by, for decades of our history in the state of Texas, it was more common than not that we would suspend the constitutional 60-day prohibition on work so that we can take up action. I want to note, I appreciate Representative Johnson joining me in opposition to the long weekend. So thank you very much. So yes, there is not just some precedent, Representative, there is tremendous precedent.
Representative Harrison, will you yield for one more question?
Absolutely. I'll yield for questions from any member of this body.
Have you observed, since you've been here in the Texas House, that on days that we gavel in, that the lobby is knocking on your door every 5 minutes?
I have noticed that.
Representative Harrison, will you yield for one more question?
Yes, Representative, I will yield all day.
Have you also observed on days that we don't gavel in, that we are on a 5-day weekend, that there is almost no one knocking on your door
I'm sorry,
because
you're
the
gonna have
lobby
to, You're going to have to
knows?
repeat the question, Representative. I can't hear you.
Have you also observed that
Do you
on the
mind if I
days that we don't gavel in, the days that we are on our 5-day weekends, that the lobby does not knock on our doors because they know the representatives are not in their offices?
Yeah, I think it is really clear to the people who actually, quite frankly, exercise far more power than many people who sit in these chairs, the lobby, that work is not, in fact, happening in the people's house in the great state of Texas.
Thank you.
You bet.
It's good to see you.
Thank you.
Close. Mr. Hunter to close.
Move passage.
All right, the question occurs with the adoption of SCR 14. This is a record vote required by the Constitution. The clerk will ring the bell. Representative Lee's voting aye. Representative Dean voting aye. Speaker Crowder voting aye. Representative Hunter voting aye. Cortez aye. King aye. We're good. All right, there being 127 ayes, 21 nays, the resolution is adopted.